Hey everyone, welcome back to another production meeting. We were supposed to do this around Mission Possible time, but we'll talk about that in a minute. But hey, how's it going, guys?
I'm good. I've been watching more recently. There was a kind of goes with the theme of this video being so long since our last one. I'm finally catching up on more stuff. Um,
Right?
yeah, work's starting to dwindle down a little bit, but yeah, overall pretty good.
I mean, it's okay. It's not like there was like an unexpected just phenomenon over the summer that ruled the box office for 7 weeks or something. We didn't miss anything that big.
Nothing
Yeah,
huge,
right.
nothing explosive.
Yeah,
No? Okay.
Yeah,
Um,
I look back and I was like, well, I guess that's why. I mean, I caught on the big blockbusters, but yeah, there really wasn't that big a thing this summer. Really didn't just like, wow, that was really good.
I'm trying so hard to think of another pun, but I've got
It's okay.
none.
You'll
I have
think of a
zero.
food
Clint, you've got one at
analogy
least.
soon.
yeah. See, I beat you to it. Um, so this is not going to be a normal production meeting because like there's a strike going. Well, there's two strikes going on simultaneously, so the entertainment world has come to a screeching halt. Um, Hopefully, this doesn't go on for much longer, but I don't think they're any closer because people keep yelling at Bob Iger, and um, yeah. So we'll just kind of like go through some of the stuff that we've caught up on, some of the things, give our thoughts on some of the movies that we actually did see over July, the last couple weeks. Um, So I don't know if you guys mind if I can start this off because I only seen like a couple of them. So we left off with Indiana Jones, and then I did see Dead Reckoning. Um, I liked it for the most part. I think that I think that four will always be my favorite one for some reason. I don't know. The pacing of four was just really, yeah.
Yeah,
I The pacing of four and the storyline of four was just a little bit better. This one, I don't know. There was just a lot of space, and I don't think that they could really tell what they were going to do with Haley Atwell. Actually, and maybe all those answers will come in part two. I don't know when that's coming out because of all this crap. So, um, I mean, I liked it for the most part. I did think it was a little bit long winded, but I mean, I enjoy the Mission Impossible movies. What do you guys think?
I was actually trying to remember my ranking. It might be a little bit different than when I was telling Ryan back after I'd watched it. Um, so leading up to Mission Impossible, I decided to do a little homework and watch the entire franchise leading up into yeah, and I did it in the span of 3 nights, maybe ish, something like that. So I watched them in all consecutive order. Because I bought a deal. I think it was like $20 for the entire set of movies, and I was like, that's a pretty good deal.
Yep.
So if this is accurate, my ranking from best to worst goes uh three, and I'm not gonna give the subtitles. Three, five, four, six, and seven are tied. Two and one.
Wow, one is on
Uh,
the bottom.
Yes. Now I know that that is a little controversial because it's it's the original. It's set off kind of the what we know, but if you take out the very what is it? The very famous scene of him, rope tied down to and getting the data in that little room with all the
Yeah,
pressure sensitive things, all that blah 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 blah.
yeah.
Which I thought that was a great scene, and back when that came out in what, like 1995, sometime in the mid to early 90s.
Yeah.
I was like, this seems pretty intricate, and it still holds up pretty good. It almost is like it felt like that's where the budget for that movie went completely because of the rest of the movie, and this is why I dock it as like my least favorite. It just kind of feels like it's a very limited setting, and it's like it's almost like a playwright sort of, and it felt kind of confusing because it's like, okay, he is dead, but he's not dead, but he is dead. And then you're a good guy. He's not a good guy, but he is a good guy, but he's bad. And I'm like, what? So, but that also is the very first time I'd ever watched it, so it's not like I had some previous knowledge to go on. So I'm pretty confident in my ranking, and then forgetting all the middle ones. Number three was the one with uh, Philip Seymour Hoffman as the main bad guy, and I thought just so good. I mean, it had the enormous amount of action. It had good character arcs. It had a good plot, and it had great emotional tolls in there. Um, with him and his fiance, then becoming wife. Just it just I couldn't think I didn't think you could get any better than this. I mean, I like Ghost Protocol. I know that you guys have that as your top one, and it's not bad at all. I mean, none of them are bad. Um, I just think that three just kind of blends everything and puts it all in a nice little combo and presents itself in a pretty nice way. So, um, but going back to kind of what's the topic at hand, um, Dead Reckoning Part One, I like it. I gave it a 7. I mean, it's completely fine. It's a good addition to the group, but I just one thing I don't like, like everybody doesn't like change, and I think they had the what do you call what did I call it, Ryan? The whole next generation kind of mentality with I don't know the actress's name, but the one who basically parallels Tom Cruise throughout the majority of the movie. Um,
Haley Atwell.
and not yeah, nothing against her, fine actress and everything. I just when she's in the movie, she represents probably what will be a continuation on from when Tom Cruise is, eventually going to stop doing these. That's just kind of what I kept thinking. And then same thing with the main villain. I just felt like he kind of was just thrown. I kind of dislike, this is kind of a spoiler into the movie. So and I think they actually kind of go over this in the trailer. He's a person who was in Tom Cruise's life prior to all the titles that we've ever gotten. And it's kind of it's not cheesy, I would say, but it's just kind of like it's not a great like, hey, this happened and you're part of my past and oh man, I totally thought he was dead. I'm like, dude, in a world where everybody takes off their masks, and anybody can be anybody, are you truly shocked that this person's actually still alive? And I wasn't in love with that. I mean, that actor as far as the main villain goes. I mean, again, nothing against these people. It just I don't know. Maybe they just weren't presented in the best light, in my opinion. Um, so I mean, seven out of 10 for Mission Seven. So I mean, could definitely be a lot worse. It's middle of the pack for me on that one.
Mhm.
But Ryan, yeah, we should probably just give all of our thoughts on this one, and
Sure.
then move
Yeah.
on to the next one.
I've never really tested the extent of the noise canceling of these. I'm just there's just our dog upstairs is being so loud. I don't know if you guys can hear it. I
No,
promised I was listening to everything you said. I was just also listening to him and wasn't thinking about what I was going to say. Um, it's about the middle for me too. I gave it an 8, but I gave a lot of these like a lot of the films 8s are higher. It's my least favorite of 4 on. Alex, I know you love 3. I like almost all of them. I don't like 2, but even I've come around on
yeah,
it enough to say, is it 45 minutes of slow mo too long? Yes. Does it have some of the best sequences in the movies and a villain with a personal connection to Tom Cruise?
but it also
Yeah.
has doves, Ryan. It has doves.
Gosh, John,
All the
he just
doves.
full John Woo. Um, 4 is my personal favorite. Fallout is my objective best. I actually have 4 and 8, and Fallout at a 9.
Hmm.
But 4 is better than Fallout, or if I like 4 better. Anyway, um, I really like this movie. There weren't major problems I had with it, and there were big leaps that it took as far as the story goes, and I didn't think they were working or that they were going to work. And every like 15, 20 minutes in that movie, I was like, I'm not into this. And then 30 minutes later, I was like, yes, I'm into this. They seem to sell really hard decisions that don't feel like they should be in a Mission Impossible movie for a Mission Impossible movie. Haley Atwell included. I think there's some behind the scenes reasons I don't really. I mean, Haley Atwell's great, I feel like Tom Cruise was like, oh, hey, I want somebody new to be my co-lead. And that's kind of annoying because it feels like everybody else is shoved to the side. And that
Oh yeah.
led to a
Yes.
decision in the movie. Um, I won't get into it, but like there's one character who doesn't really get much screen time compared to most of the others that this particular character's in. And that made me very, 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 very upset. And I've not forgiven that movie. And I probably won't. So it's I've called it the lowest 8 I've ever given.
Hmm.
Um, but the stunts. I mean, it's incredible, well paced. And I mean it's exciting. There's some great sequences. You know, does it deserve to be doing as poorly as it did or is? No. Should they have moved the release date? Yes. Tom Cruise's
Hmm.
fault.
But see, to go back to your point, though, Ryan, I think the funny thing is that that's exactly how I feel about Ghost Protocol and Fallout. The thing about it, because I think the two, for me, it's like a very close race. Where like I loved Fallout, I thought that was one of the best like Mission Impossible movies. But for me, it's like with with Ghost Protocol, I think it has just a slight better story and a slight better pacing, and the characters are slightly better as a whole. But I will say that like Fallout has better action scenes. I
Yeah.
mean,
It,
especially that bathroom scene with Henry Cavill. I think that fight scene was probably
Oh,
the best
yeah.
in the series. Yeah,
Yeah.
it was
yeah.
And
You can
great.
you
I
can make that argument.
Yeah,
yeah. And Clint, I agree with you. I
Uh,
think for me, like it's a simple thought, but like 4 is really funny and it's
hmm,
really fun. And it's the best and it never loses tension for me. I mean
right,
it definitely like goes fun over tension at times, and I think that's perfect for a Mission Impossible. Until
right.
you get to Fallout and the stakes need to be higher, but like it's so fun that I just want to kick my feet up and
Yeah.
watch 4 every time.
And what's funny is like I really didn't think that Christopher McQuarrie would actually do well with these movies, but I think like the pairing of the two of them have been great. With 5 and 6 have been really good. Um, and I think the introduction of the Syndicate was a good thing. I just didn't like how it was like there it is and there it's gone, and now we're back to like these like Bond villains, like for the rest. You know what I mean? Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, the only other thing that I seen in the theaters was Ninja Turtles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Mutant Mayhem. As a huge Turtles fan, I love this movie. I think that for some reason, even in the trailers they call him like a eternal teenager. But I think Seth Rogen and Evan Goldberg, I don't know, they just captured whatever it is that the Turtles were or are. So I really liked how they did this. I did also like that they didn't introduce Shredder at all. Um, because I think that that's just like a stigma for some of these comic book movies is that you introduce like their villain like right away. And I think that Christopher Nolan did it right where they were just like, we're gonna build this up, so you have to come back to some of these movies, and we're gonna take the best villain and like put them in later. Um, and I really like that about this, where it's just like a simple movie, and it's not like yeah, they're world threatening stakes, but I mean, like, it's not like the major villain and you have to like kill him off like right off the first movie. So taking those low level kind of like villains or threats, I think did this movie better. And um, the sorry, this distracted me. uh,
Something's like falling upstairs, and I'm like, hope there's 3 other people that can handle this. But
right. Um, but yeah, the animation was awesome. I think that the introduction to the actual teenage voice cast, I think a really
mhm.
did it differently. And I think that's what made it, I think, stand out a lot. Because I mean, when you watch the Michael Bay ones, that he produced, that's Johnny Knoxville. So like it just kind of took away from like Leonardo and stuff. So I don't know, but I did
Yeah,
like this.
I haven't seen the film itself, and I'm looking forward to it because I mean, just the animation style alone has that whole Spider Verse quality to it. So it just kind of resonates good vibes just from that alone. But I saw a featurette with all the kids who played the turtles, and they were just like, yeah, what's been missing from almost every adaptation, uh, pretty much actually all of them, is the whole teenage part, and so they actually got teenage actors to do them, and then not only to play them, but it's more or less they just let them ad lib and just
Yeah.
let them be teenagers. And so it kind of makes it more authentic, and then therefore the quality goes up more. So um, did Seth Rogen direct this one, or was he just involved in production?
I think he produced and wrote it. I think he was one of the writers
Okay,
on it.
because somebody was asking me going in. They said, "Did Seth Rogen direct this?" I was like, "I'm not sure. He's very much involved with it, but I don't think he's director. But I mean, he's
No.
almost kind of assuredly more valuable than just than a director because he's kind of involved with the rest of the skeleton of this." And so I've heard nothing but good things, and I want to check it out. Um, did Ryan? Did you watch that one?
Yes, and if I were between 8 and 12, or had an attachment to Ninja Turtles, probably one of the best movies of the year for me. I am neither of those things, so I liked it. Solid 7 for me. And I mean, this is not a complaint to the movie, like at all. It is what it wants to be. I don't really have any major problems with it. Personally, I saw this in Dolby, and I was like, do things have to be moving and sounding and loud all so much? And I'm like, you know what? That's great. That's perfect for, it does a better job of being consistently fun and entertaining than the Michael Bay ones, and that's what he sets out to do with his movies. So I think it did a
Mm.
really great job at being just beginning to end, flat out entertaining. And the visual style, the way they want it to be, like it's definitely. I love the animation; it's gorgeous. It's just like sometimes when it's like the colors are a little muddier because they're doing night sequences. They're kind of at a street level, kind of not like the Spider Verse like crisp crimson colors or anything. And so sometimes I'm just like, there's so much going on. Trent Reznor and Atticus Ross are blaring in my ears. There's other music happening. I can't because I'm old. I'm not even that old, but I felt old. But I thought it was really good. I thought it was really good. 7 out of 10. I did
Yeah.
watch. I had seen the Michael Bay ones. I didn't care to watch those again. I watched the original 3 live action ones and then the animated follow up before this, leading up to it. And boy, is there one good Ninja Turtles movie in existence.
This
And
was
it's
it,
this one,
right?
the new one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is it. Two
I
is
have a.
terrible.
Oh yeah,
Like Vanilla
completely.
Ice shows up and
Yeah,
starts rapping.
completely.
Then their rap dance, their fight
Oh
like
yeah,
dancing.
of
It's
course,
sad.
of course, yes, of course it is. But see, this is where my nostalgia kicks in, and it's like I remember seeing that movie in the theaters and absolutely loving it because the Ninja Turtles are my thing, and I I loved the first one. The first one was amazing. I liked the second one because it was a little cleaner, but the first one's more adjacent to the comic books because they're supposed to be a little bit darker. And the third one was trash. I do have a soft spot for the the CGI or the computer animated one in 2007, just because it's a little like I don't know, it's like a continuation of like certain storylines that you find in the comic books. Um, and then Michael Bay ones, like the only reasons why, like they were okay. I just
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know why we needed Johnny Knoxville to voice one of the turtles, and then took him away for the second one. It was just like, wait, that's a little jarring, but whatever. Yeah, and Megan
There's
Fox, that
something
was
consistently entertaining about a lot of even objectively bad Michael Bay movies. And I'll say that about the 2 movies is like I think the second one is worse and still so much more fun.
yeah, that's
Eh,
weird,
Yeah.
but that's what I watched. That's all I can remember off the top of my head. So and I dropped some mini
Well,
reviews. So
luckily, I always keep my list of running movies. So if we're going with post Indiana Jones, which to recap my previous thoughts on that, yeah, it's just a grumpy old guy who cosplays as
we
Indiana
don't
Jones, and yeah,
we don't need to
yeah,
go back. You guys hurt me enough.
it's a 5.
So
It's a 5. Anyway,
my
Lord.
rose-colored
so
glasses. Yeah,
so I watched Mission Impossible. We already mentioned that. No Hard Feelings. That was a Jennifer Lawrence. Kind of. I don't know if you call it a rom com, but it's a comedy, or at least it tries sets out to be. I neither hated nor loved that movie. It's interesting. It's not really that funny. It's more interesting than funny, but it was okay. It's if you needed an hour and a half to 2 hours just to kind of do something, you definitely could spend your time doing worse things. Um, I think I gave it like a five, something like that. Something okay. Then I watched Oppenheimer, but we can get back more into that because I know Ryan and I, because Clint, you haven't watched it yet, have you?
No.
Okay. Well, we
But I
can
know what
circle back
happens
to
if
that
you're.
one.
I mean, I know what happens if you if you're
Yeah,
worried
right.
about
Spoilers.
Oh
spoilers.
no, no, no. I'm just talking about no, no. Oh yeah, really. Spoilers. Oh, shh, don't tell him. Shh, don't tell him. No, but we can like.
There is a spoiler to be had for sure. I think in that movie,
It's
just with the
it's more
narrative.
so. Well, I mean, yeah, you discover things that they don't, bring to light in what actually took place, and it's like, I don't know if mentioning them would take the, joy or sting out of, realize or learning them for the first time in the movie. So, but
Okay.
just to talk about our overall notes, we'll come back to that one.
Okay.
I watched Talk to Me also. That is one of the better A24 films I've seen. I surprisingly that felt like that had to be a low budget film because I believe, if I'm not mistaken, somebody told me that was like either a bunch of YouTube um actors and kind of a YouTube style production or something related to
The
that, and it had to
the
be a
directors
yeah. Go ahead.
were the directors did. Sorry for clarification for everybody's listening. They're
Yes,
really quiet. I can't tell how casually I'm interrupting sometimes.
I
Um,
I,
you're fine.
are you talking about the movie? Okay.
No, I'm talking about like when I butt in, I'm like, I can't tell if I cut you guys off or not because once I talk, I
Oh no,
can't
you're
hear
good.
you guys. But no, the
Oh.
directors became famous for doing short films on YouTube, and they went from YouTube to
Okay.
this.
Well, they did a pretty good job with this because I typically don't go with horror films. I mean, especially of this nature, with possession kind of deal. I mean, it's not technically being possessed. I mean, but it's the story is intriguing enough, and it kept me engaged most of the way. The ending is not the best landed. It feels a little like, okay, I guess we're just doing this now. But it's good enough that it's meriting a sequel, and I will watch a sequel. So,
Well,
Ryan, you watched
I
that. You want to compare notes on that?
before
Yeah,
you go, like I just wanted to like pick a like have a bone to pick with you, Alex. Like I tried to see that today, and you guys aren't like holding it. So shame on you.
No,
You
we didn't.
specifically.
Not the greatest attendance. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a little niche. A24's got a reputation, and it's a horror movie in the middle of summer, so not too many people going to see it. So sorry.
its
Alright.
box office domestic is holding really well, but movie
Hmm.
taverns target audience. Um, so
Yeah,
I,
yeah,
I
Sorry.
liked it a lot. Alex, I thought it had a pitch perfect ending. I'll be honest. Like
well,
the
I
ending was
mean,
like
go ahead, Ryan. Go ahead, because I'm actually trying to refresh myself on what I disliked. I just remember having a little bit of a bad taste at the end.
I think for me, the only thing I really it wasn't really so much that I didn't like it. I would like to watch this movie again because it felt like um, one of two things, which A24 does both of usually really well. One is like when you're watching it like midsummer and you're like, oh, this is going to happen. Oh, it's going to happen. Oh, here's where we're going. Stop.
Yeah,
And you can see things unfolding and you can't do anything about it. And sometimes you watch a movie, which is, I guess, much less A24, more like Blumhouse, where you're like, oh, yeah, I know where this is going. And there were times where I just couldn't tell if the movie was trying to keep me in on it or not. There were
we
lots of
did agree on
surprises
that.
for sure. Just lots of moments where I was like, oh, yeah, I know how the next 20 minutes are going to go. And then they went that way. And I was like, I can't tell if I'm in on it or not. But that might not be even a complaint. I thought it was really good regardless.
Maybe that's the same thing because I agree with you. Because I right after I saw it, I texted you guys and I was like, I really like how they blurred the you have no idea what's real and what's not, and it's not just a it was me kind of deal the whole time kind of situation. It literally like it just mind messed with you the entire time because it just it played with perspectives in a very effective way, and it also lets you, not exactly cloak and dagger kind of deal, but in that realm a little bit. But I think maybe that's why I didn't like it. The ending, that is, because like what you said, because of that effectiveness, and you didn't know it was real, and it just felt like, as you said, this is kind of a predictable moment, and it plays that way, and it just, you know, it's like telling a joke that you already know the punchline to. People already know that, so it's not quite as funny, or it's not funny at all. So it takes the punch out of it. So, Clint, you definitely should see it. I I give it glowing reviews, but I also think that it might not be a good secondary watch unless you watch it like after a while, having not seen it in a while. I can't really remember everything. I don't know why I feel like that. I think it's because of the predictability of it after, because you know what happens. So it just takes the, oh man, that was really freaky kind of moment away. Um, but still a solid one watch at least. I would recommend it at least one time. Um, so, but there was
I will say
that.
too,
Uh,
probably one
Go
of the
ahead, go
most
ahead.
believable horror movie setups ever, where it's like a bunch of kids doing this because they're making TikTok videos about it. And I was like, yep, I buy that.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
Huh.
yeah, that's that one too. It's very believable. Like I, I believe that this probably could be happening. I mean, anywhere really. Yeah. So I mean, it's the setting's pretty accurate. Um, let's see what else. I watched this fairly a few weeks after it came out, but Haunted Mansion. Um, it's pretty much exactly what I thought it would be, but it's not god awful. It's just, it's it's Disney. We knew that they were gonna, do this and just kind of have it be all cheesy and everything. It's mildly entertaining, but like, Brian, I need a food analogy. Go.
Uh, when you eat food, it's you know what it is? It's like eating pumpkin pie in the last week of July instead of the last week of October. It's not quite right.
Yeah, yeah,
And
that's
it is a
pretty.
store bought
Yeah.
pumpkin pie, of course.
Yeah. Oh no, I've got another analogy for it. It's like, okay, there's a brand of whatever that you are getting. Let's say at a convenience store, and you're like, okay, the packaging looks like this. Will taste like exactly like this. Not exactly accurate, but you see it, and you're like, oh man, that'll be totally flavorful. Blah blah blah. And you toss it in, and you're like, this isn't that great, but I did spend about $7 on this, so let me go ahead and finish this. So, I mean, it's not the worst thing. Um, I I don't know why I don't completely hate it. Something that just drew me. I think it has a better second half than a first half. But I couldn't even tell you why.
I
I
could,
I can't get into it.
yeah. I think it's because it's kind of fun. But I think it's probably because Lakeith Stanfield commits 150% to the point where he's actually too good for the movie he's in and makes it a better drama than a horror comedy. And
Yep,
I'm like,
yep.
wow. Like twice in the movie, I was like, oh, I'm not into this. Not into this at all. Like,
Yeah, yeah. That's
uh,
yeah.
good
He
score
brings it
too.
pretty good in that. Um, what's your overall rating for it though? Because I think I gave it like a 5. I think it's a firm 5. Like, it's not god awful, like I said, but it's just I could not give this a fresh.
I gave it a 6. I was a little nicer to it just because I enjoyed it. I don't know. I don't usually. I like to know exactly what doesn't work in the movie for me. And this one, I was like, something doesn't work for me, and I'm not 100% sure what it is. There were some very specific nitpicks I have about, like, at one point they go to a different mansion to get a thing, and then there's like 20 minutes it feels like at this other thing, and I'm like, writers, just put the thing in the mansion that you're in and save us like 10 minutes of movie. and it won't drag down. And there's times like
Yeah.
that where it's just like they write these bits that don't adhere to the rules the movie has set out to adhere to, and they're funny bits, but it could just be tighter. And I mean, I say what you will about the Eddie Murphy one, it's a crisp 90 minutes. Uh,
That, Ryan, you said that. Yeah, I remember because they needed a possession of the person who's behind all these hauntings, and they go to that other place and they find it. And in my brain, I'm like, can't anybody just find that? Like, isn't it under there? Isn't it underneath the foundation of the entire place that you just built right there? I don't get
which
it.
doesn't even make a whole lot of sense to me. And I'm like, if that
It
thing is
doesn't.
happening at there, why is the thing the other? It's like just it should just be one. It was I think it was just definitely written as one thing or should have been. Um, I will say I think as an adaptation of the ride, having just recently done the ride twice uh, in June, I think it is a great adaptation of the ride with the exception
Yeah.
of not having the singing ghosts in the graveyard. And I'm like, take the fetch quest from the other mansion and put it in the stupid graveyard. Done.
Yeah, that's very, very accurate. I agree with all of that. Couldn't say it better. So, I mean,
Yeah,
whenever it comes on Disney Plus, go for it.
yeah. I was just gonna say that. Do you think that they put this out in July so that they can hit their 45-day mark and put it in on Disney Plus in October?
Yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I
I
just
would
thought of
venture
that.
to
I
say
was like,
that.
wait, this is probably that's why they didn't release it in theaters in October, is because now they have everybody at home
Gotta pump
watching
up
it
those
on Disney.
streaming numbers, those are rookie numbers.
Exactly. Exactly.
Well, it's probably also to catch at the last minute. What it came out at the very end of July, so what you got 2-3 weeks to kind of cash in on families before they go back and
Mhm.
school and work and all
Yeah.
that, and so
They did also,
pretty.
if I'm not mistaken, I mean this decision was made a while ago, and if I'm not mistaken, the two movies moved dates at separate times. But the Marvels had Haunted Mansion's release date. Haunted Mansion had an October release date, and they pushed Marvels back to November, which is funny because it's losing its IMAX screens to Dune instead of Oppenheimer. But and then they pushed Haunted Mansion to July to fill that spot because I don't think they expected Barbie and Oppenheimer to be, you know, the internet phenomenon back in like January when they made that move.
Hmm.
Hmm.
Some of my
Yeah, I
timeline might be a little off there, but
Yeah. That's huh.
no,
Yeah, it sounds about right.
it's pretty accurate. Yeah. Let's see, what else did I watch? Well, the last two, other than, and we can circle back to Oppenheimer now if we want, but the only other two that I've watched since Indy was Blue Beetle. That's our review today, and then Barbie, which I watched today. So yay. Do we want to talk? We can talk about Barbie if Ryan, if you want. I mean, I don't care. I mean, it's fine if you have strong feelings about it. We can talk about it.
I mean, I'll talk about Barbie. I
Go
agree.
for it.
I thought it was fine. I thought it was a fun time that occasionally just stopped being fun for the point of getting preachy, or not necessarily even preachy, just turning into kind of a message. And it's not like I disagreed with it. I was just like, the fun time kind of went away for 10 minutes at a time every once in a while, and then came back to being fun. If the movie had stuck 100% to that message by the end, I think I'd like it a lot more. But also, like, it's a lot of fun. Ryan Gosling's incredible, stellar production design. You know, it's fun. It's a lot of fun. I'm glad it has
Uh,
made us the money it has without, being number 20 in a series.
yeah, that's very accurate. I too, I sat there and I go, I'm not the target audience for that, and I kept that in mind. Because it's obviously because Barbies are for girls and all that, and when Barbies came out, you know those um those women are what, around 30s, 40s, and so on. I mean, Barbies have been around forever. And so I'm just sitting there. I'm just like, I'm not going to take this super serious. And I've heard kind of like how you said it's fun and it's kind of just goofy. And yeah, I mean, for a good chunk of, like, especially the beginning, It's kind of just silly and it's very bright, and they're just like, like, hey, we totally act like this. We're Barbies, and it's not actual reality. And then yeah, it kind of gets surreal and like self-aware. Um, but then they're just kind of off the cuff moments where, I mean, small spoiler, where Mirren is she's narrating the first part of it, and then she just kind of out of nowhere like comments this one part, and it just catches you so off guard that it's actually pretty funny.
It
Um,
is.
yeah, it's great. It's a great moment where they're trying to have this like dramatic moment, and then she kind of just butts in and just goes says something, and then you're just like, oh, ha 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 ha. So I mean, it's a fun time. I too agree that I am happy that it is made. The box office success that it has. Um, do I need to watch this again? No, I'm good. But it's if I was forced to watch it again, I wouldn't be like, oh no, not that again. So I'd even maybe even give this a I'd give it a 6. I think it's fresh enough. Um, yeah, it's cutesy. It's it's just a kind of like how Talk to Me is, for horror people. This is a fun way to just kill a couple hours if you need to. So,
I think I'd watch it
um,
again just to hear Ryan Gosling say Mojo Dojo Casa House
yeah,
15 times, which I couldn't say once apparently.
Mojo Dojo Casa House. Um, yeah, his his part especially I thought was, being Ken was a little bit better in the beginning of the movie. Um, but that's just me if I'm trying to like super nitpick and like kind of, dissect all these parts. But yeah, it gets really existential for a moment, and you're a little blindsided by that because they're trying to do like a public service announcement almost to be like, hey, what now? At some point, like I know it's Barbie and it's supposed to be like fun and all that, but at the same time, there is a dramatic moment that it's just like, man, it really makes you think about the perspective that women have just in general, like life, not even just as far as films go and Barbie and all that. So it's just like, wow, that's pretty good scene right there. So I thought, kudos on all that. So I guess if we go from that, we go to the second part of the Barbenheimer sensation with Oppenheimer, obviously. Ryan, I feel like you're going to be a way better review for this. Because I'm just going to be pretty general with it. So I'd like to hear your thoughts on
I thought it was great.
it.
I just
Oh
no, I mean
man,
I thought it was
Ryan,
great.
so not
You
so
know,
much here, okay?
I have a lot of thoughts on it, but they are mostly nitpicky and mostly positive. And it's like it's Nolan. What's the worst you can get with Nolan? Dark Knight Rises. Oh no, it's only really entertaining and exciting. So
Right.
it's like I'm sure there are. No, I'm not sure there are. That's probably my least favorite Nolan movie, and it's a great movie still. So I'm like,
Tenet, only because I couldn't understand it. Tenet.
I like Tenet a lot, but anyway,
Insomnia.
but I agree. I saw it twice, and the second time we walked out because we didn't hear a word. Like, Dolby's supposed to be better. But anyway, um, yeah, I thought Oppenheimer was great. I mean, when a 3-hour movie just like trugs along at the pace trug is a word. Chugs along at the pace it is, for sure. And it is like, oh, a 3-hour biopic about the guy who invented a bomb with no, all the stuff we hear about it was there's no CGI and a bunch of well-known actors and it's told out of order and stuff like that. And I'm like, how entertaining can this be? Pretty darn entertaining when you're Nolan, I guess. And just so much about it between the performances and the score and the cinematography. The lack of visual effects, great. There's one moment where I actually kind of wish there were a visual effect just to kind of see a little bit more of the scale at the time. But I get why he's such a purist about it. For me, the only like real nitpick. Oh yeah, and the narrative. I love the way the narrative is told. I heard some complaints about the last hour, just kind of that it feels a little off. The movie tackles a lot in 3 hours and deals with a lot thematically and a lot of characters. And Nolan even spoon feeds a little more than usual, where it's like in the first half, I noticed you mentioned like they mentioned a character's name, and I'd be like, "Who is that?" And then they'd cut to a shot of them and cut back, and I'm like, "Thank you, I remember who that is now because you showed me." And that came in like the last hour. You're like, "Oh, I that name. Oh, yeah, I remember because you told me who that was at one time." And I really appreciated that because it made it followable. It made me feel smart as an audience member for remembering things. Um, I thought it was great. I don't really have any major complaints. It'll probably be my best of the year. I'm not like head over heels for Nolan at most times. I try to score him as fair as I can with everybody else. He does have two of my top 10 favorite films of all time, so I guess it's a little biased. But I mean, I thought it was really good. I miss Hans Zimmer quite a lot. Everybody says Ludwig Göransson's score is like a symphonic orchestral opera, and I'm like, that was good. It's a fine score. I miss Zimmer a lot. Not that he's gone; he just broke up with Nolan.
Oh,
No,
So
I thought that this was a little um this as far as the score goes. I think it was a little like less is more kind of deal because I don't remember a huge spectrum happening,
yeah,
but I wasn't really complaining about it either. Yeah, I thought I didn't love the movie. I think a solid 7 and only room to grow is fair. Mainly because um I don't know if I was totally like super energetic or anything going into it because I felt myself kind of in a lull in the first third of the movie just because I was like, okay, we're getting his backstory, we're getting a little bit kind of the lead up to everything that's happening here. And Ryan's right, you do get those nods to all these different, influential people within the situation, and you get kind of a okay, this is him, this is blah blah blah. And then you get the actual meat of the story, or the main reason why you're here is the whole assembly of said bomb, and it's really gripping. It captures you, and then it just kind of deals with not not so much the aftermath. I mean, the aftermath, but kind of like it plays with perspectives in a and I didn't even realize it kind of way of things that are happening. I'm not gonna say what happens because I want Clint to be able to try and see those. Um, but there's a way that they do something that honestly should be pretty obvious, but I completely missed it because of how swift it was and how seamless it was. I thought the actors were fantastic. Um, at no point did I think that there was like a even like supporting like student uh characters that just didn't really have that much. I mean, they shined too. Um, so I thought it was overall pretty good, and I really want to see it again because I feel like there's parts that I missed that, and Nolan is definitely. I mean, Ryan says that um, he's got two of his top 10 directions of all time, and then for his top two movies out of his 10. Um, my number one movie of all time is Interstellar. So I mean, I'm no stranger to Nolan's work. And I read after, and certain things I didn't quite understand. That's why I have to go back. And I remember reading something that says Nolan's just like sometimes he doesn't even want his movies to be understood. He more so just wants them to be felt. Now, not that this is super complex, because we all know what happens. Um, but it's just like it's the subplot that you're kind of like, okay, this is what's happening, this, and here, and you don't necessarily need to understand it. You just kind of need to feel the tone he's going for. And so I think most of the time I felt that too. Like I felt tense when I needed to feel tense. I felt resolved when I needed to feel resolved. And so I think all those are pretty good. And like I said, a 7 out of 10 right now. Just because I think the pacing could have been a little bit better. And it kind of was felt throughout the whole movie, but it only has room to grow, and I want it to have those higher results for me. So 7 out of 10, with potentially an 8.5 for me. I don't think this is gonna get 9 from me, but it definitely has 8 territory written on it if I can go back. So Clint needs to watch this at some point. And I know he's going to.
Okay.
Unfortunately, we don't have it anymore. That's a weird thing. We don't even have it anymore.
It is still number 3 domestic box office. That's surprising.
I know it only made what, like, at the time of when we got rid of it, it only made 990 million worldwide. I think so. What do we
Yeah,
know?
nothing. Yeah. Uh,
No, no.
Nothing.
It was, I think, because we had to take into account we had 2 prints of Blue Beetle, and then we had Strays, and then Barbie, because that was doing so hot, and we had such good, like, what do you call it? Basically return watches, second watches, and we are just like, okay, this probably would help us if it just caught a little bit more steam, so have it a little bit more available. And so I think that was
yeah.
just kind of the
Plus,
the idea that went
you
into
know,
that.
a theater with 8 screens and no technical
Yeah.
premium screens, like you guys, you have to kick something out. Uh,
Yeah, and I mean, I get it, and I don't, you know, there's no, oh man, what are you doing here? I'm just like, it's a little bit bummer, a little surprising, but yeah, like you
yeah.
said, we're a small theater, so yeah.
Well,
Um,
I got 4
go ahead,
more
Ryan.
than you on my list,
Yeah, go ahead, please.
unless you have any more.
Let me double check. I'm pretty sure I covered everything that I've seen. Yep. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna go talk about this a little out of order. I saw Meg 2 because I don't know, but I did, and I thought it was a joke. Um, Not the worst movie of the year because I enjoyed it ironically quite a bit, and that seems to hold more sway for me than like 2.5 hours of sad Harrison Ford. But still, like, goodness gracious, the movie had such a simple formula to follow and completely fails to follow that formula several times. And I'm like, it is Jason Statham and a big shark. How hard could that be to get right? Even to make it like just entertaining. And then they're like, okay, yeah, but what about corporate espionage? And I'm like, stop. Like, just yeah, there's a lot of corporate espionage in this movie. There's a
Right.
bad guy, and at one point, like Jason Statham's under a pier, and the bad guy's like shooting, and I'm like, there are 3 giant sharks and a giant squid and a bunch of dinosaurs and a helicopter and explosions and screaming people. Why do I care about this guy trying to shoot this other human? Like, what? Like, you should both run or do something else. It's just like the movie thinks that this B story is really serious, and it ends up being the A story. And there's not really any Meg that happens for about an hour and 10 minutes of this hour and 40 minute movie. I mean, like, you know how like Deep Blue Sea is bad, but at least there's sharks throughout the whole movie. This is much worse than like Deep Blue Sea. Anyway, Meg 2, don't recommend. Unless you just want to keep the box office healthy. Apparently, it's still good for the box office that it did well in its first weekend. So good for it, I guess. I saw Gran Turismo early because they kept the screenings, which we got at our Dolby Cinema here, and moved the release date because they couldn't market the movie. Uh, which I'm not going to talk too much about because we might end up talking about it in a week or two. Um, Simply put,
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good, badly written movie.
All right.
Like I thought the screenplay was really weak, and the movie tries so hard to make up for it that I enjoyed it the entire time. So yeah, much more solid. It's like solid 7 for me. I think Meg is like a 4. I don't really care what I give Meg. Solid 7 for Gran Turismo. Go see it. Another healthy one for the box office for sure. If it does well, I think critics are a little off on it. I don't think they. I mean, critics are old and they don't play video games, I guess. So I think it's refreshing despite a screenplay that feels like every sports movie ever made.
Oh yeah.
I saw Sound of Freedom back in beginning of July, and I don't see this for a while. It was talked about with other movies because the way they were doing their buying tickets early was like really not in a controversial way. It was just unique, and it was being discussed a lot because it was doing so well. I mean, and I haven't seen this movie talked a lot with other movies very much because it's like a little low budget, like pure flicks movie. This movie's one of the top 10 highest grossing movies at the domestic summer box office. So I count it with the big boys, and I thought it was really, really, really good. So I highly
I know.
recommend
I
it.
have to see that myself.
Yeah, it just dropped out of the top 10 like this weekend, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
And that's an insane run. I mean, this movie kicked Mission Impossible's butt domestically. Like,
Yeah, to go with
um,
that, I mean, we were only supposed to have it for I think the week, and we ended up having it for like 5 weeks.
yeah, and I thought it was really good. I mean, the end, like there's like the last 20 minutes. I'm like, okay, well, this is a stretch, and this is where it's definitely not based on a true story, but it's also really well written and satisfying, and it's a good conclusion to the story. It's very emotional. Like I sat there and I was just emotionally invested the whole 2 hour and 20 minute movie. I think it's really, really good. It's probably be in my best of the year. I don't really want to compare it to Oppenheimer right now, so I'm not going to. But very different movie. Uh,
Yeah.
So then I also saw The Last Voyage of the Demeter. Kara doesn't watch these, does she?
Who?
You might have to
My
have a
sister.
conversation with her.
Oh, you guys got really loud.
Oh, hello.
Hello, I can hear you.
You know, something happened with your audio that I was like,
I
you
know
got
that's so weird.
something changed.
My earbuds said disconnected, and I was like, "What? You guys got louder?" And then they said connected, and I'm like, "Yeah, I can hear you guys now." Anyway, hoping Kara doesn't hear this because she loved it. My family texted me, said it was great. I thought Last Voyage of the Demeter was terrible, just
Wow.
terrible. I like Dracula movies, and I like bad Dracula movies, and I have quite a few bad Dracula movies, and I very much enjoyed The Invitation from last year, even though that movie is not great and has a terrible finale. And I thought this
Oh,
movie was
okay,
really
hold
bad.
on. You and I have to talk about this now because that is one of the ones that I put my mini reviews onto our page, and I thought it was
I know. I
horrible.
saw. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed
That
it.
was so
I think,
bad. Like that movie was like, it's not Dracula. It's not. It's really not. We're
yeah,
not vampires at all.
they went to the Star Trek Into Darkness school of lying to their audience, and I'm like,
Yeah.
we all know.
And then they were like 20 minutes into the movie, like later, you're like, okay, we were just kidding. It is Dracula. And I'm
Yeah,
like, yeah, we know.
the working title for that movie was The Bride, and I think they should have gone with it and just not pretended to that the audience didn't know. And I think it would have been
Right.
more entertained for like a typical like we
Exactly.
were talking about with Midsummer, where it's like, yeah, we know the whole time, and you can build suspense a lot more. Also, it was definitively R-rated, cut to a PG-13. That would have made a better movie for sure.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, it's okay. I enjoy The Invitation. It's a guilty pleasure movie for me. It's like not good for me, but you know, I also love Taco Bell, and that's not good for me.
That's fair.
But something about The Invitation I enjoy. I think it's just because it's like, you know what it is. I'll tell you what, because The Invitation is not burdened to anything. It is just like, yeah, we're telling another Dracula movie, and here's the story we have, and we're gonna do it however we want. And I'm like, cool, yeah, I'm along for the ride. And this was
Yeah.
like, we have to adhere to the book, and then it feels like people read one chapter of the book and made a movie about it without reading the rest of the book. And I'm going to get some disagreements if Kara ever hears that. But there is a scene where, I mean, I'm not going to talk about it. I think it's really bad, and I think it just gets worse and worse and worse. And there's a scene where like one guy gets in a boat and he's rowing away from the boat from the ship because he's got to survive, and Bat Dracula flies out over the water and gets him on the boat. And I'm like, if you can fly over water, you can go to the English Channel and fly to London instead of chartering a course. You can't go over water because you're a vampire. Literally, why you have to put yourself in a coffin and ship yourself. Stuff like that. Like the movie just does not have rules that make sense. It introduces a character who explains way too much to the audience and then does nothing useful, despite the movie and herself constantly saying they're useful. And it never contributes anything. It's really silly, and it's pretty much 2 hours of people saying, "This whole crew is gonna die. There's a curse upon us. We'll never make it. The devil's on board." I'm like, stop it. Just do the movie. Just do Alien on a ship for 90 minutes. That's all you have to do. There's some good practicals early on that quickly get replaced with like a bad CGI Dracula. And then, of course, there's like, I won't spoil it, but it's like, oh, you're a prequel to events that we know, and you open by saying, "Oh, no one survived this." Spoilers for a movie that's or for a book that's like 100 years old, and I'm like, "Oh, but you've got a character who's not part of the crew." Yeah, I've seen 2011's The Thing. I know what's going to happen throughout this entire movie now. Thank you, movie, for being so transparent.
Mhm.
Are you sure it wasn't
I'm gonna
about
stop.
family?
Gosh, even and we talked about this. Even Barry McCurry's score is just kind of wasted in this. There's moments that are like really over dramatic, and there's some moments that are great. And this is not the movie's fault whatsoever. It's whatever studio releases. There's about 2 hours of music throughout that movie, and the soundtrack album release is 36 minutes long. And I'm like, I want to listen to more than 36 minutes of music that you made for this movie. And now, having seen it, I know it's out there. Whatever. I hated this movie. It's bad.
Well,
I think it's really bad.
Kara will agree on you because I didn't say that you hated it or anything. I in fact I don't think I knew yet. But I was talking with her and she said, "Yeah, oh, I loved it. I loved it." And she goes, "But it is really strange how there is only 9 songs or something like that that are throughout the entire thing." So she's like, "Where's the rest of it?" And I'm like, "Oh, wow, that's interesting."
I'll get it. I mean, I promise to stop talking about it. But like, I've been listening to the vinyl for God of War Ragnarok, courtesy of Alex here, and I'm like, gosh, there's just so much rich music that Barry McCurry has. And I was listening to he does some really unique stuff, and I like how he digs into like the culture of a thing. And like 5 minutes into Meter, there's like I can't remember what city they even leave from, wherever it is, but there's like this really nice kind of string music that's like kind of fitting for the environment. And I was like, oh, I'm digging this. And I've listened to the soundtrack, and this isn't on the soundtrack. Why is this not on the soundtrack?
Wow.
Like, how hard is it to just digital, whatever? It's a bad movie. It's a bad movie. And every time I thought the movie was going to get good, there's like really interesting moments where it's like, we have to make this decision, this drastic decision. And then the movie writes itself into a position where they don't really have to make a tough decision. And I'm like, you guys are the fate, the doomed crew of the Demeter facing off against a monster that you don't understand. How, again, I don't understand how, because this could have been botched this badly, but it was botched really badly. And I mean, even by like really basic vampire lore, it does not make sense. And I don't understand how a movie that's so like set in one specific chapter, the BBC show did it better. I'm going to stop talking. We should talk about Blue Beetle or something. Well, I'll talk about Tears of the Kingdom because I finished that. Something like that. I don't have as much to say about Blue Beetle as I do about Demeter. I'll tone it down for the next one. This is the movie I have to talk about right now. It's Demeter.
I know.
Yeah, not all of us
still,
seen this movie, Ryan.
Yeah,
I know.
And it jumped.
I haven't seen.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Ryan.
I was going to say, and I mean, this opened in 5th place and jumped to 10th place in week 2. So, you won't get a chance to see it.
I'm stubborn. I still want to catch this just to, even with the glowing reviews. I'm like, I need to see it for myself.
It'll be on Peacock here in like a week or so. It's owned by Universal.
Yeah. No, well, okay. But yeah, I guess that was that it, Ryan, or did you have one more?
I watched the Muppets Mayhem show on Disney Plus, and I thought it was really good. Now I'm done.
Nice. Now I'm going to go watch that.
Good band series and good Muppet series.
All right. So if that's the end of that, that's the last voyage of the Demeter. So yes, this week is our main topic is actually going to be Blue Beetle, new DC superhero movie. And there's a few questions that I have to promote for you guys, or to arise for you guys after my little glowing review. So Jaime Reyes is a newly college graduate, and he comes home to Plumar City and is then shoved into this world of high-tech alien symbiotes and symbiotes, however you pronounce it, and evil corporate conglomerates. And superhero things happen. This is fine. I mean, to be honest with you, like I know the character as the reigning superhero comic book reader for the three of us. Um, I know of the character. I've read a few of like his issues. I do know that the person that they reference throughout the movie, Ted Kord, is the original Blue Beetle. Um, and it was just like they kind of say in the movie, he's just uh like a Bruce Wayne ripoff that has like these texts and like he's kind of Tony Stark with less drinking, I believe. I didn't mind the movie. Like it's an origin story. I mean, what else can you? I mean, I'd like to go into more detail with this, but it's just like it's an origin story. You have a love interest, sort of, and you find out that you're more than a hero than you thought you were, type of thing. And if this was Marvel, it would be, with great power comes great responsibility type uh, story. And I love the representation that Jaime Reyes like presents for these movies, and I think that they did a really good job with taking this adaptation of Blue Beetle and taking this character of Blue Beetle. Um, I thought it was an interesting take on how he becomes the Blue Beetle, because it is an alien tech. It does come down to Earth to kind of like it's actually escaping. I don't know if that's this because they don't. Well, it's not a spoiler. It's just that's what it is in the comic books. Is he's the scarab escapes from its planet to find a better host because it is made for destruction, and they choose Jaime because he's a pure at heart, and that's why he becomes the Blue Beetle. Um, so, I mean, the effects were good. The fight scenes were decent. I mean, it wasn't horrible. Um, is this the best movie to kick off the new DC universe? Probably not. Um,
Might be the
and
safest movie to do it.
yeah, I will agree with that. Because it is unfortunately, unless the representation does come out to see this, I don't think this is getting a sequel, and I think that his part, unfortunately, is going to be minimalized to a side character, and it's kind of sad. Which kind of raises my question: do you two believe that there is actually superhero fatigue now?
For sure.
Really? Okay.
For sure. Now, for me, I think it does not help that seemingly the superheroes post Endgame. When I say post Endgame, I'm not talking about Guardians 3. Um, freaking love Guardians 3. But for me, that feels like the rest of the MCU wrap up that Endgame
Mm-hmm.
follows with. It does not help that the most of the seemingly, I'm going to say most. I'm just going to lump them all together. And I know there's some really good ones in there and some really enjoyable ones that aren't great. But it feels like a majority of superhero movies that have come out post Endgame are just either not good or not as good or not
Mm-hmm.
relevant and good. And it does not help that the two things. I'm not sure if one has led to the other. That's probably part of it because the box office performance for some of these were pretty good, and COVID seems to have helped a little bit, but kicked it in a little bit. And I mean, it's not just, I don't think it's just superhero movies. I think audiences post COVID are getting really wise about what they want to see.
Mm-hmm.
Disney streaming definitely, it's a complicated issue. Streaming's put into it a little bit. People are expecting like, oh, I'll just catch this in 4 weeks if it's out on Disney Plus or Max. And I mean, with Ant-Man and Flash's performances, they were out on those streaming services with people's expectations met. So, Ant-Man killed Shazam, Shazam killed Flash, etc. And
Yeah.
there are lots of factors into it, but the fact is that we're looking at a majority of these superhero movies underperforming expectations at best. There's definitely some gems in there.
Mm-hmm.
Disney Plus oversaturating everything, et cetera, et cetera. And I think what did not help was that I thought Blue Beetle looked terrible. I thought it looked just terrible. And I mean, like, I didn't know anything about the character, so I didn't care. But it looked like just every superhero movie ever made. And part of it is every superhero movie ever made. I don't think it's a bad movie. I thought it was fun. I enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a surprising movie. But audiences have to go see it to learn that. And you aren't going to lure them in with a trailer that makes it look like a superhero movie.
Right.
It's like Iron Man, but Green Lantern, but Venom, but all the others,
Right.
and not different.
Yeah.
So, and in a year where we had Ant-Man underperform and Flash bomb and Shazam bomb, like, I don't know. I don't know how else to have fixed the marketing for this movie. And it did take down Barbie finally, but Barbie's in what, like week 7 or 8?
Yeah.
And it still did not do 25 opening on $100 million budget. Bad. You're right. This won't get a sequel. So, um, to answer your question, totally. Superhero fatigue is totally real.
Right.
The director of the Marvel said so too, so I'm very curious to see how that's going to go.
Yeah. And Bob Iger said so too.
It's like I can see it on both sides. So fatigue, yes and no. I'm gonna say yes. Uh, Ironically, well, let me just say that Blue Beetle. I actually enjoyed it. I think that the actors were good, and they were charming, and they kind of carried their characters a little bit more than I think if you're just kind of getting no names in there, um, and just kind of like, all right, this is great, go, and because charm can cover up bad writing, better writing can cover up a little bit of overall bad arc, um, and so I didn't think it was awful. In fact, I actually
Right.
enjoyed it. Now it is a little bit it's a formula. Can't
Right.
say the word. Um, guy finds this object or this, ancient thing. It becomes part of them. They have to fight corporate evil. I
Yeah.
mean, it's not a new thing, but at the same time, I don't know. And even the beginning, while I do think that it actually is a good pre-plot to, the meat and potatoes of this story, because I thought, the whole I have to find a job, I have to support my family, I have to find us to not lose our house and all that, and I'm pre-law. They already make him a little bit more rounded. Now they don't go too heavy into that. They just say, hey, I graduated, and then I have a diploma. But I still thought that it was a good, like, I was invested even in that part of the story. Like, even before he becomes the Blue Beetle, I was like, okay, this is actually not. I mean, if this continues for a while, I'm not gonna argue about it. Um, I I always say this, and I quote Ryan on this often. The part where it falls is that the movie's only as good as its main villain, and Susan Sarandon is not a great
A
villain
horrible
by
villain.
any means.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Sorry.
so it's like
No, yeah, you're right.
her henchman is a better villain, but that's because he's the main source of actual physical violence and all that. So um yeah, how they just kind of turn the way they do at the end, I was like, okay, this is sure. I mean, I
Yeah.
guess. Um, but overall, I wasn't completely hating this movie. I thought it was a decent way to start off the new, DC cinematic universe. Um, do I think it'll get a sequel? I don't know. I kind of hope it does because I would like to see more about this character, and I think that's a good reflection of James Gunn's writing ability, because we talked about how nobody really knew about Guardians of the Galaxy. I mean, very little. I mean, Clint said that. I think you said before that you knew of these characters, and I think you read a little bit of them, but you weren't like super familiar with them. And he was able to kind of make them a
Oh
good,
yeah.
like,
Yeah.
yeah. So he was able to make them kind of a pretty well known franchise. So I thought that this could be like that too. I don't know if it's quite as good. I mean, in y'all's opinion, it isn't, and in my opinion, it's not as good, but I thought it was fine. And I thought the effects were good. They weren't like, oh man, that clearly looks CGI'd, and that fight
Flash.
scene looks super. Well, here's the thing: I haven't seen that yet. that was because I went on vacation
Spoilers.
and
Doesn't look very good.
I've heard that before, and in spite of that, I still want to see it so I can compare notes.
I believe it's coming on Max on the 25th.
I mean, full
So
disclosure.
very, very soon.
Yeah.
I thought Flash was fine too. I enjoyed it.
I heard
I don't want to
that
talk about it.
I heard, not to glare over that and go too far into that. I heard that Flash had good writing and good casting and all that. I mean, Ezra Miller and all that. But
I want to interrupt you
I
just want to interrupt you just on that, because it's like, I think that the Flash had good writing until the third act, and when they were like, this isn't where we're going anymore. Oh crap. And then they wrote out like a completely different ending, and I was like, this doesn't, like, one is not like the other. Sorry.
Yeah. No. See, and I don't know that. I was just told that. I'm just going off of what other people have said, and
Right.
they said, that the writing was good, I guess, up until that point, and then overall it wasn't terrible. If you take out the effects, and I don't know if I'm just oblivious, but that certainly wasn't the case here. I don't think the effects were at all bad. They seemed generally fine. I mean, not like, oh man, that was super cool. There was a couple of moments where he creates like a little sword and kind of puts it together and does, some acrobatics and all that. That seemed pretty cool. Um, Otherwise, I just thought it was fine. I liked it. I would give it a solid 8 out of 10 because I would watch it again, and I thought the whole and Clint uh covered this too, that the whole Hispanic Latino kind of representation in this movie, I think, boded well for the whole connection of family because culturally that's
Right.
significant. So I think for me personally, I mean, I'm not Hispanic or anything. I just thought that was a good way of making family kind of a central, focal point throughout kind of this whole thing because they kind of they get to the resolution together. They're kind of the majority of the way through the movie together, and it just I thought it was okay. I thought that was fine. Yeah, I would gladly recommend this movie. And I think, I mean, objectively, it's better than what DC's come out with in the last at least. I mean, because Flash was according to everybody, I saw Black Adam. That was I liked The Rock in that. Funny enough, like I thought he was like actually the best thing. Everything else I was like, this is stupid. Shazam 2 was pretty dull, and then became like a marketing for Skittles for some reason. Like I know they like crammed Taste the Rainbow within like 3 times in like the span of 2 minutes. I'm like, what is happening here? That's the problem I have with Warner Brothers is that they're shameless marketing. It goes back to the new legacy for Space Jam. I hated that movie.
I forgot it existed.
Absolutely, like, yeah, you're welcome. Oh, what's that one movie? Yes, thank you. Yeah. Can't go an episode without that. Yes.
Oh god.
Thank you. We got our quota of what did you just said it? What was the name? Artemis Fowl. Thank you. I was trying to remember it.
Yeah,
I can't even remember.
Forgetting the title of a movie after like 10 seconds.
I was like, you literally
that we completely hate.
No, audience is that forgettable.
Yeah.
Yes, if you want the backstory of the hate for this movie, Artemis Fowl, go back. 3 years ago.
Matt loves it, right, guys?
Yes.
Yes, Matt. Yeah. Matt loves it. Yes.
Loves the movie.
But yeah, Blue Beetle could be a lot worse. I mean, honestly, yeah, I think we all can pretty firmly agree this is a step in a better direction than where they were previously. Yes?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So, now answering the question in a full sense now, is there fatigue? I actually am. This is probably in my at least in my top 5 movies because I haven't seen that many that have wowed me this year. I know. Funny enough, I actually was almost going to consider it number two, right behind the other superhero movie that I've seen this year, Across the Spider Verse. So
Oh, right.
I do believe there's fatigue, but it's like I was saying before, if there's good writing and you don't just churn out the same thing over and over and over that everybody always gets, then you can produce something of good quality, and you don't have to get fatigue. Like, what's an example of like a middle of the pack kind of rating for a movie that came out in the last 3 years? A superhero movie, that is. Somebody name. I mean, one that we haven't just recently discussed. Um. Uh. No,
Love and Thunder.
I'm not. I wouldn't even call that middle of the pack. That was straight up trash.
Black Widow.
Oh,
I
come
mean,
on. No, I actually I disagree with that one. I actually like that one. But
what did
we'll
you say,
flip
Ryan?
that one.
Black Widow.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, I know you two will agree on this, and Clint and I will agree on Multiverse of Madness, where Ryan thought that
Ah,
was good. Yeah, see, this is a
but I'll
complex
say
web we
Yeah.
weave.
objectively, it works in your argument. I love it as a Sam Raimi horror film, not anything else. So
Right. So it just there is fatigue if you just like expect your audience to take it like with no expectation and like just here's my money, I don't care what it is. Like if you think that your audience is dumb and will accept whatever you want or whatever you want, then that's not very smart, and there is fatigue and it's very real, and if you don't make your movies a little bit more rounded, there's nowhere else to go.
Well,
plus,
I think the argument can be made though is that I don't know if it's fatigue or your audiences are becoming smarter, because it's just like with this, I completely agree. So like for the rest of, and I know this is my fault because I posed this question, but for the rest of my review, yes, I do think that I can't pronounce his name. I'm so sorry, but the actor that plays Jaime Reyes is very charming. I think that they picked him
Mhm.
specifically for this because he's even charming in Cobra Kai, and I have multiple problems with that show. But um, but yes, the protagonists of this movie are very charming and very likable. And but it is like Ryan says, it's like the antagonists of this movie are very bland. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, even the Zocom guy, the like his her henchman. It's not until the end that you're like, oh, okay, well, yeah, this guy is kind of tragic for some reason, and they never really touch on why. He's just a cookie cutter Bond villain that everybody's just kind of like, yeah. And then like you said, like Susan Sarandon is just horrible. Like I like Susan Sarandon in most of her movies, but it's just like with here, it's almost like she's like phoning it in. Like
yeah, but
I'm another
she's like David Thewlis in Wonder Woman, where they're just like
right,
given nothing to do except
right,
say like
exactly,
kill him, stop
yeah,
him,
Sanchez,
I'm evil.
right.
Yeah. It felt like a insert actor here kind of deal.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Like, you could have picked any, I hate to bring race in this, but you can put any white woman in her late 50s, 60s, and stuck her in there. It could have been
yeah.
Sharon Stone, for all I knew. Like,
Yeah.
but and but see, the rest of the movie, yeah, it
Hey,
was fine.
Sharon Stone might have made a lot of that role.
Yeah.
Nothing against
So,
Susan Sarandon, but like now that's what I want now. Is
but I just felt like that side of the movie was lacking. But I think that like this what really hurts this movie is that one, it is another origin story that we've like.
Mhm.
It is literally the cookie cutter origin story. Some kid finds this, and it goes through its beats. But I also think that it was started its production in 2018, 2019, where like Snyder still had like some sort of control over what was going on with the DCEU, and then it stopped because of COVID, and then James Gunn and Peter Safran took over, and now it's kind of like this half hybrid between the two productions, and I think that's what's hurting it. And I think what Nia DaCosta was saying with the Marvels is that you have to find something that is going to not trick your audiences into wanting to see these movies, but almost like like having that James Gunn type of like touch to it, where what he's doing with Superman is he's introducing Superman in a certain point in his life where there's already superheroes, and I think that that's probably what they should have done with this one is already have him be Blue Beetle, kind of giving him like this like prologue and just thrown him into this universe. But this is what we got.
I agree because I think, and, going into my review just a little bit, I won't. Like I think there is a good drama here and a bad superhero movie here, and together I think they're fine. In fact, I was trying to decide between like a 5 or a 6 for this movie, and I keep thinking back on it, and I'm like, oh, this annoyed me, this annoyed me, this annoyed me. But then George Lopez said that one thing, and I laughed for a solid minute, and I'm like, you know what, 6, easy. It's not. I don't think it's bad. The family drama is great, and I'm like the stuff that I liked in that movie. I think could easily exist in Clint's sequel pitch of like, it's like
Right.
when you make a pilot, you write the first episode, and then you write the second, then you throw away the first.
Right.
That's your pilot, and it's like you could do that with this, and you could still keep that family drama that makes it really compelling. And I think that would have gone a long way. Getting into, I'll get into the villains, but I didn't mean to cut you off. If you had more to,
no, go ahead.
I think the villains had a lot of potential that the movie had never shows interest in exploring. Like twice, these are minor spoilers, I guess, for anybody who didn't see this movie this weekend, so it doesn't matter. But like twice in the movie is like, oh well, yeah, she came into Vivian Victoria V for villain, Susan Sarandon, can't remember, the Veronica, yeah, something. They're like twice. They're like, oh yeah, this passed to the main girl's father instead of her, and I was like, that's an interesting thing. Are you going to go anywhere with that? Nope. And then later, like they're in the helicopter, and she's like, this should have been mine. And I'm like, yeah, probably should have. Like, I want a flashback. I want to see you getting rejected for what was probably rightfully yours, and it turning you into this person. Similarly, like the other bad guy, like he seemed like he's got a really compelling backstory. I didn't really understand what was happening a whole lot because there was a lot going on, and they crammed it in there. And I'm like a little late to ask for sympathy for both these villains in the last 10 minutes of your movie. Slowly put this stuff in. There's a sequence in something that I can't remember. I was been trying for like 10 minutes on the top of my head. Oh no, it's in Spider-Verse, the first Spider-Verse, where Kingpin's just clicking a pen, and then they're cut to like the stuff with him and his family, and they just cut back to him clicking a pen. And I'm like, that's great because you're introducing to the audience some motivation, and it's really compelling stuff. It's not exposited, it's not out of context. Nobody has to set, it's just show don't tell. And the movie never has any interest in diving into those things. I think some little cutaways should have been perfect. Like add 3 minutes to your movie, a minute of her, or a minute and a half of her, a minute and a half of him, and then I want like a solid 45 seconds of the grandmother back in the Revolution when it slows down and she's shooting the big Gatling gun. So I was like, okay, this is a silly bit, but it could be really funny right here. Oh, I forgot Guy Ritchie's not directing this. Anyway, continue.
Right.
Yeah, I also think that it was like what you were talking about, kind of cramming their backstories for the villains is just kind of like, I mean, I don't want to say exactly what happened. It's just kind of like part of me goes, okay, this is going to be a spoiler. So anybody who's watching this who hasn't watched Blue Beetle yet for some reason,
who has never seen any superhero movie ever.
Yeah, really. Okay, so Clint, what'd you say? Susan Sarandon's what? Late 50s, 60s? You say something like that?
Yeah, something like that. Late 60s.
So she's obviously, and I'm not like picking on her or anything. She looks her age, and she gets the backstory right, and she's there at henchman who looks. What does he look? What's his age? What would you guess? The henchman.
Well, she's 76. Thank you, Wikipedia. And he is 68.
He's 68. Okay, I didn't think he was that old, but still. Okay, that even more proves my point. He's 68. She's what, 5 years older than him? And then
Sure.
how is it that at his flashback, when he's a what, 8-year-old boy, she's only like 10 years younger, maybe, if that. I'm like, what? What?
Yeah,
What?
yeah. 'Cause
War ages people.
it seemingly is like throwing the responsibility on her. But maybe if it were like the company itself, and she duped him into thinking that they were going in a better direction, and he was on board for it for some reason or something, and the movie just skims past it, and then kind of has this little line where he's like, "I remember." And I'm like, "Did you forget, or were you brainwashed?"
Right.
Answer my question, movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go into this more. You have time. It's like 2 hours.
Yeah.
Audiences sat through
So
3 hours for $95 million opening or whatever.
that was the part I had the most issue with. I was just like, one, we're just cramming this in the last, all right, 10 minutes, if that, of this movie. And then two, you're making this weird, like, time jump, and she's still like almost the same age, and you're like 10, if that. So, and then when Jaime's father dies, he, uh, I don't know.
I
I
was
just thought it
sad.
was a weird sequence.
I
Okay,
was too.
I was sad too. I was sad. And it's not a bad sequence, that kind of, what is it, like otherworldly plane where he's talking with his father. I just thought, I don't know, I don't know. It felt a little out of place. Like it just kind of felt like I don't. This realm hasn't been established. It's not kind of like how Wakanda or Black Panther is, where his dad passes, and then you're familiar with that plane. We just kind of get thrown
Okay.
into this kind of, yeah, yeah. I don't know.
Coming from someone
I
who
just thought
liked
it
the
was
movie
weird.
less than you, I thought it was great. That sequence. But
I
only
mean,
because I was
it's
like,
not it's not bad.
I seen it coming. Like I guess that's like we literally had like a movie about this like a month and a half ago that literally explains the whole thing. That was his Uncle Ben moment. That's his canon moment. I was
Oh yeah,
like,
true.
"Yep, here it is."
Yeah,
And like
really.
I said, like at the beginning of my review, I was just like, it's great power comes with great responsibility type of thing. That's like literally what his dad says to him. It's just like this is your destiny. Be the hero that we all know you are. Spider Man. I
Yeah,
don't know. Like,
and maybe as a side thing, yeah, that's just kind of what I'm not really so much complaining about. It's just
right.
it's formula. I cannot say that word. It's of formula.
formulac,
Uh,
formulaic.
yeah. See, now everybody's
Formiliac.
having trouble. I'm not the.
Alex, we're making fun of you.
I know.
Sure.
I'm trying to say it.
Formulaic.
Formulaic. Yeah, there
Yeah.
you
I
go.
guess I'm the one making fun of you. I feel like a bad person now. I thought you were in on it.
It, it follows a blueprint.
No, you're
Is
totally
what
right.
I'm
I was
getting at.
making fun of him.
So it's a case of it definitely could be a lot worse for me. And I think it's a good jumping off point for the DCEU, the next one. But what is the next one that's supposed to be after this? Ryan, yes, please.
Wait,
Ryan
real quick.
knows.
I really like the score.
There you go.
That's all I had to say.
What is the
I
next?
feel like hold on, Clint. Before we get back to that question, I always feel like when it comes to scores, Ryan is so um like intricate with his reviews. Most of the time, he knows what he's talking about. I mean, not most of the time, he knows what he's talking about. He knows what they're here for, and what makes a good score and what doesn't. And I'm just sitting here going like, I feel like I'm Andy from The Office, going like, that score is bad, that score is good, and sorry, it just made me think that. I'm like, it sounds good to me, and I don't know why.
No, I mean, I don't know why. I like it if I like it, and I don't like it if I don't like it. And sometimes it grows on me, and sometimes it doesn't.
No, but it typically like
There's
there
reasons.
was
I mean,
one.
if you look at
There was one that you talked about a while ago that had a good initial score that actually was borrowed from something else that they just kept playing on repeat for. It was something superhero related. I can't remember, but you said that was good. A good score. No, I think it was actually they took the like Winter Soldier score and they put it in the Falcon and the Winter Soldier. That might have been it.
Yeah.
And I didn't catch it, but you absolutely did, and you're like they changed it up and they kind of replayed it, and you were like, that's just completely lazy. And this, and I mean, somebody like me who's not even listening for that, I was like, oh, I guess that is the case. Not to say it's bad. It's an observation. I was like, I see. I almost wish I could pinpoint stuff like that. I'm just like, how does he catch that
Alex,
often?
all you need is like a lifetime of practice. And by lifetime, I mean however old I am, minus like 8 years, but still.
Yeah. Oh, okay. I'll get right on it.
And I mean,
Next
it's
decade.
just, yeah. I won't dig into it too much, but it's like sometimes you can dig into it. It's like if you want, I thought people like Oppenheimer, but I think Oppenheimer lacks like a narrative cohesion where it's like there's not really a theme you're humming over and over in Oppenheimer. I haven't listened to Blue Beetles by itself yet, so oftentimes I'll walk out of a movie and say, "Oh, I really like the score," and I'll listen to it and I'll be like, "Yeah, it's okay." And I would have done this with Demeter, except we listened to Demeter first. And sometimes I'm in a movie and I'm like, "Oh, Indiana Jones," where I'm like, Sean Williams even trying here, and then I listen to the score and I'm like, gosh, this man's good for 90 years old. So it's just, it just depends. It's the mood, it's the mood you're in. It's how much you like the movie. Sometimes it's not how much you like the movie. There's whatever.
Yeah.
So I think this for me, I know what superhero movie scores sound like, and a lot of them are the same, and some of them are really good. And if it's a superhero movie score and it's different, it catches my ear, I like it. And I mean, this was like 80s synth, which was really unique to me. And it reminded me of like the last act of like the second Black Panther without betraying the original sound from Black Panther, which totally fits the narrative. But I really enjoyed this one. I will listen to it and probably forget to keep you guys posted next week on it. But
Well, that's good. That's good.
it's not
But
Spider
anyway,
Verse.
so no,
Best
it
score of the
can't
year
be.
for me is across Spider Verse.
I, I don't even have to be, of that mindset to even recognize that Spider Verse had phenomenal music. Um, no, going back to the question, what is the next movie after this that is supposed to continue this DCEU, Clint?
Well, there's where like the conflicting kind of like reports come from. So,
Mm-hmm.
from my understanding, this and Aquaman are, according to some,
Aquaman.
so Aquaman is going to be the next DCEU movie. So conflicting reports say that this is not a part of like James Gunn's new thing, but I've thought that I've heard James Gunn come out and say that this is a part of his new like world or his new DCU that Jaime Reyes is actually going to be a part. Like this in iteration of the Blue Beetle is going to be a part of his DCEU or his DCU. Um, but there's other things that say this and Aquaman are the last two of the Snyderverse DCEU.
Mm-hmm.
But as far as like the actual like the new one that he's got, it's supposed to be something Commandos. The name of it.
Well, while you're
It's
looking that up, I just want to.
Creature Commandos. That's what it was.
Oh yeah. I know of that. I don't know anything about it though.
Mm-hmm.
But I have such a really kind of moment with Aquaman 2. I did not dislike. I did. What am I trying to say? I did not dislike the first Aquaman. I thought it was fine. It's not great, but it's fine. It's the where we've had to go through with the Aquaman 2 whole scenario with Amber Heard, and that whole Johnny Depp thing, and then she's being removed, and then now we're not sure completely if this is supposed to be part of the new Vision, and it's being reshot again, and I'm just like, Can we just scrap this? Can we just? I mean, Jason Momoa has probably got to just be losing his mind at this
Well,
point.
yeah,
They actually got him right after probably all the test screenings, put him in Fast X, and that's how he got the character.
Yeah, really.
yeah.
Um,
I've heard so many conflicting. Like I said, I've heard that. Like I thought that I've read that James Gunn said that these last two are going to, because the Flash. I think it's because of the Flash, and as far as what I'm understanding is the Flash was that last of the Snyderverse ones because it resets everything, and it does have
mhm.
like this like Flashpoint esque type of moment in it. So that's why like when people ask James Gunn, he kind of like scoots around the answer if Ezra Miller is going to be the Flash moving forward, or if whatever. And then if Jason Momoa, because that's I've heard that too, is that like the last Aquaman is supposed to be the last of the Snyderverse, but Blue Beetle is like, but there's elements of the new Aquaman that are supposed to be part of the new DCU. It's weird, but I know officially it's supposed to be the Creature Commandos are going to be like the new animated series that's supposed to like release next year. I'm guessing like late next year because it says 2024 on it, and they just announced it back in like February. So I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's right.
superhero movie estimated release dates when there's a trailer and the trailer says the date that's coming out, probably that date.
Could be like Invincible. Like I'm excited for Invincible, but I don't even think they said when it's dropping. I know that they said Q4 of this year.
Yeah.
Anyway, but yeah, so Aquaman maybe.
Well, I guess whatever. I mean, who? Maybe the DCU doesn't have to be good. Maybe we can just
I
live
mean,
our lives.
yeah, you guys have seen the producers
No.
writing. Oh, Clint, you've probably seen one of the producers, one of the movies.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers has proven that you can just do that. You can just write yourself a check. Not that specifically, but just like they did it with that one. Like it's write yourself a check and just bury it.
Yeah.
And I actually feel like that might happen with Aquaman too, just because of delay after delay and the change up and the bad test screenings that Amber Heard. Like, how are they ever going to make this movie happen? The casual audiences are not smart enough to follow any of this stuff anyway. Not that they're all dumb, but like they're either following it religiously on the internet, which there's split between Snyder fans and people who aren't seeing the movie apparently, or they just don't understand and they're not seeing the movie.
Right.
So it's not that they don't get it; it's that they have other things in their lives to think about. Then hang on, which cinematic universe does this fall under, and why are these actors still here?
Right. Which is
Right.
sad.
Yeah.
Which is sad because I think like the Marvel Cinematic Universe is like coming. I think they're leveling out. If I'm going to be completely honest with you, like I haven't even finished Secret Invasion, and I'm literally halfway through, and I'm like, I don't
I
care.
haven't even started it.
Yeah, like I don't care.
I've been watching it, and every time we put it on, I'm like, wow, this is much better than I expected. And then I don't really feel like putting it back on unless
Yeah,
I make myself.
yeah. That's where I'm laying it. And like the Marvels, like I liked Ms. Marvel, so that's the only reason why I'm gonna go see the sequel. But it's just like I think Bob, like as much as I don't like him right now, like I think Bob Iger is right. Where I think that like the last CEO was just like, this is making money. And it's like,
Yeah, really.
okay. I don't know why Bob Iger would say that about Star Wars because we haven't had a Star Wars theatrical film since what 2019.
Yeah, 2019. Yep.
Yeah.
Since
So
Solo, right?
no.
Because since Solo, that was the last live action Star Wars
Oh, I was
movie
like, yes, that's
that I
true. Which was
acknowledge.
what 2018. So yeah. Um,
Oh,
I mean, The Mandalorian, and Boba Fett, but I don't know why he seems to think that like Star Wars is invading or oversaturating the market. I will say that like Marvel Cinematic Universe is, and I think that problem is with their cinematic universe right now is still going on is that they have no idea where they're going, especially with Jonathan Majors now. So good luck, Disney.
Yeah. Plus, I mean, getting sued by one of your co-financiers for 20th Century Studios probably doesn't help their decision-making process right now either. Maybe don't hide $40 million of income. I shouldn't take sides on that until they've settled out of court, but they'll settle out of court, and then I won't be able to take a side because I won't know the answers. So,
Thanks, Scarlett Johansson.
I can't wait for the series about this lawyer who's representing both ScarJo and TNG, whatever, or TGN, whatever it's called.
Mm-hmm.
I want his series, and I want it to ironically be on Max.
Anyway, but yeah, that was the Blue Beetle. I gave it a 7. It's fine. Better villains
High
next
6,
time, please.
mid 6.
I could be talked into a 7.
Do it
after
now.
those. Okay, 7.
Right now.
Don't hit me.
Yeah, get better villains next time.
Yeah.
Ones that make sense, to be honest with you. Anyway, and no, Batman is not a fascist, by the way. I take high offense to that.
It's just a funny line to say.
I mean, this happens every once in a while where like a character in a movie says something and then like the internet loses their mind. And I think it's so funny that the internet, not saying you did this, Glenn, I mean, but like, right. I think it's so funny that people are like, how dare the movie say that? And I'm like, no, the paranoid anti-government conspiracy theorist is saying that in your movie.
Yeah.
And it totally fits. Like, do I believe he thinks that? Yes.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
Oh.
And it's great. Blue. Yeah. That was awesome. Any more thoughts on Blue Beetle and or superhero fatigue?
Not really. I think you hit on something. There's some franchises that's not necessarily superheroes, and it doesn't help that the big ones are franchises. So it's like they're kind of one and the same until we get another example, which Spider-Verse might be the only other example out there, and that's proving maybe that's not just superhero fatigue, but it's also animation, and it's got maybe a little bit of a target audience, but maybe not, and it's different studios, so big discussion.
Yeah, one we'll have later, I guess. Anyway, okay, so the only thing that I could see like for next week was Gran Turismo and or Vacation Friends.
You made that up. We're not getting it. You made that up.
Vacation Friends 2 on Hulu. I didn't even see the first one. Yeah, okay, so that's probably out the window. So Gran Turismo, I assume, sports movie. Now that you say that, Ryan, I don't even know if I want to go see it.
I think it's good. I mean, I think it's good. You will like it less than Alex and I.
Well, here's the thing. You say that. I mean, I might play into my PlayStation fanboy kind of mentality and be like, okay, I don't like that part, but I don't really like. I've never played Gran Turismo, so I don't really care. I mean, if it's a driving movie, it's a driving movie. But I've heard it. It plays like there's a couple Easter eggs. Like they play like a little PS2 startup sound clip, like a little bit here, and they make a reference to this, and I'm like, okay, I'll be here for that. So yeah, I will watch it, but I don't really care.
I've never played a Gran Turismo game, and on top of that, I'll say Rachel never played Gran Turismo and doesn't like sports movies really at all. She liked it more than I did, and I liked it. And I'm like, I think there's something to it. There's something where it manages to satisfy really well. I mean, there's I'll get into it next week. You have to check it out. I think it's good. It's not great, but if it does well, again, that's healthy for the box office. So.
But the funny thing is I think from what I read, and Ryan, you've seen it, so please correct me if I'm wrong, but
You're
I
wrong.
don't think that it's okay.
All right. Super caffeinated
But
right now, I guess.
but I believe that it's not based on the game. It's actually
No,
based on a.
yeah.
Correct.
No, the coolest thing about it is that I mean, I know it plays a little. From what I've heard, it plays very loose with the true story. But they ran a contest to see if they could essentially take like the best gamers to train them how to race, and the winner of that, so the one person who would like make it through the camp, would join their racing team, and then they found out they had to do some qualifications or stuff like that. And on top of that, the coolest thing is the stunt driver or the actor for the movie is the real guy,
Yeah.
which is pretty darn
Wow.
cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that is pretty cool. Okay.
Yeah, and the true story part about it, I mean, I'll get into this next week. My biggest complaint was that it wasn't like a 4-hour miniseries, because it's got so much interesting stuff going on that the movie just doesn't have time for. And I don't blame the movie for what it isn't, except for Blue Beetle. But but like, you know, like you can dock the movie for little things. Like I can't say like, oh, this movie should have been made for TV. Not how movies work. But could it have been a 3-hour movie that I'd still watch? Yeah, wouldn't do well, but
yeah,
I won't get into it too much. We'll talk about it next week. But I think it's good. It's just, you know, it's like the more sports movies you've seen, the less you will like it.
Well,
because the more those things will
crap.
get to you.
that'll
You
also
might.
lead into no, I know I'll be jumping 2 weeks if we ahead, because we might be getting not, I don't know, actually. I'm a little with the whole cinema day thing. I'm not sure exactly what we'll have, but the Dennis Quaid um baseball movie, The Hill, is coming up, and I was like, I'll want to catch that. And then another, we should just call these Liam Neeson movies, just call them that. Liam Neeson 11, Liam
Um,
Neeson 12,
I have a really
Retribution.
funny story about this movie coming up. We were driving back from dinner, and I still haven't seen a trailer for this movie. I haven't seen a poster for this movie. Um, and Rachel's mom was like, "Hey, there's this new Liam Neeson movie coming out. Have you heard about it?" And I was like, "No, what's it called?" And she was like, "Oh, I can't remember." And I was like, "But it's called Vengeance." And she was like, "No, I don't think it's that." And I was like, "What is it, like Retribution?" That was my second guess,
Yeah.
Yeah.
because they're all very predictable and the same. And I was like, "Okay, what have Liam Neeson movies been called? Not this, not this, not this. Revenge, but not Revenge. That's a movie that's 8 other movies called Revenge. Retribution sounds good. I can only think of one other movie called Retribution. It's old and foreign. So second guess, I got it.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen a trailer for it, but where you got tickets?
I'll probably have to catch that because my dad will want to see that. So even though they're all a dime a dozen,
Gosh, that poor man. He did one good movie and it ruined his career. I mean, not that he had done bad movies before then. Like,
he
Hold
just
on.
he found he found something that
No,
was easy to produce.
there are some good movies in there. You know, he had The Gray, he had Nonstop, he had Walk Among Tombstones. That was pretty decent.
Hold the phone.
And
So the plot to this movie is: while driving with his 2 kids, a man receives a phone call from an unknown assailant who claims there is a bomb in the car. Unable to exit
Yep.
the vehicle, he must now follow a series of twisted instructions while trying to figure out how to survive.
Yeah, it's basically Speed.
Yeah, I was gonna say, throwing a bus in Sandra Bullock, and that's Speed.
put him in a phone
Yeah.
booth. It's a lot of things.
Yeah. That's what I saw.
Don't
Like,
shoot the
I've
phone
seen the
booth.
trailer. Yeah, I was gonna say I've seen the trailer for it, and I'm like, does anybody not realize that this is like almost verbatim these other 2 movies? Just Liam Neeson's finally wanting to do that now. Drop something.
Liam Neeson has an agent, and that agent probably gets him like first gross or something, where he makes money no matter how much the movie makes.
Hey, then
It's probably
smart.
yeah. Otherwise, he would not have. I mean, you know, Liam Neeson's great, but like the choices that he has in movies, I don't think he would still have a career based on the theatrical performances of his last 10 or so major films. He's got one of my least favorites of the year still, Marlowe. What a noir. So good.
Oh.
You remember that one from February? I don't think anybody's going to talk about that at the end of the year.
I never even saw it. I remember the poster for it, but I don't remember it. Seeing it. I didn't.
I couldn't tell you 5 facts about it.
That's not true. You know what the name of it was?
That's true. That's one.
Who stars in
Diane
it?
Kruger's in it, and Liam Neeson's in it. It's a noir.
Mm-hmm.
And
it was horrible.
At one point, at one point, somebody gets shot with a shotgun and they survive or something, and it's really confusing.
All right.
That one might be made
storage.
up. There's a scene in a Hollywood warehouse. 5 facts. There we go.
There you go. The Land of Saints and Sinners. What is this? Sorry, I was going through his filmography, and it's like, holy shit. Like, this is horrible. A newly retired assassin finds himself drawn to a lethal game of cat and mouse with a trio of vengeful terrorists. Can you guess what movie that is?
Was that his from last year? Was that
Blacklight? Yeah.
No, In the Land of Saints and Sinners. That's a new movie that's coming up for him.
You are just every time we do this, you make up 3 movies and you throw them in.
I do want to see Made in Italy, though. That was the one with his son, right? Could be.
Yeah, that one. I used to know all the obscure movies, and I've given up.
Right. Okay. Anyway, we need to stop picking on Liam Neeson.
Next week, Retribution, right?
Because he has a certain set of skills.
Oh gosh.
All right. Next week, I think it'll be Gran Turismo or Vacation Friends. I'm aiming for Gran Turismo because that's the theatrical release, and nobody wants to see John Cena because nobody can see him. All right. Well, thank you guys. Come back next week. All right. See y'all next week.
See you guys.